Hello, I'm Todd Starnes. All right, look, it's no secret that life is full of hiccups. You lose your job, you get a bad report from the doctor, you just flunked out of college. So what are you supposed to do when life throws you a curveball? Like hide under the covers? I don't know. But we do have someone that can answer that question, the author of the new book, The Comeback, and also one of my favorite pastors, Louie Giglio. Louie, welcome to the Fox News Corner of the World.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, so look, is it really possible for folks to have that Rocky Balboa sort of comeback when life throws them a left curve?
You know, everybody doesn't get to run up the steps in Philadelphia with the soundtrack of the Ages playing behind them. And really, that's, you know, the thing about this book that's interesting, it's not a formula. So it doesn't say everybody gets the same kind of comeback. What the book is about is it's hopeful. And what the book is really saying is that God is greater than whatever it is that we're facing. So whether it is a diagnosis, a spouse is dying of cancer, my business just went under. In that moment, we have to remember that God is bigger than whatever the circumstance we're facing. And out of that hope can spring a comeback. And it may not have a nice, tidy bow on the end of it, but we do believe that God can make something good out of anything, and that He can do something that will show His power in and through any circumstance, any situation that we find ourselves in.
And I think you really touched on a key point there, because there might be somebody watching on their smartphone now and they're saying, hey, wait a second, I went through a rough time and things didn't turn out all that rosy, so or it took a long time to climb back up that ladder. So there really isn't some sort of a quick answer to what happens to folks.
Well, I share some of my stories in the book, and a lot of other people were kind enough to lend their stories to this book. One of them's Courtney. She's a dear friend of my wife and I. Courtney's husband went out for a bicycle ride the day before Thanksgiving 3 years ago, and she got the phone call an hour or so into that ride that no one wants to get. And before she could make it to the hospital, she got a second call, and her life changed forever. And so you can't say to her, well, you're just going to get a comeback. You're going to get to start all over again. You're going to get a great comeback story. Her husband's not ever coming back. And her life and her kids' lives are altered forever. And so what is the message for her? Well, the miracle of the story of Courtney's life is that 3 years later, she still has hope. She's moved from that point to a point where she's still trusting God for a future. And the miracle wasn't that things could be like they were before. The miracle is that God has sustained her, that God has been enough for her, that God has come through day after day after day to bring her from the darkest, deepest pit into a place where she really believes God loves her and has still is writing her story.
So, Louie, what's the first step? Say somebody's, they're reading this book and they're like, yeah, this is me. You're talking about me. What's the first step, the first thing they need to do?
I think the first thing I want people to do is to not do what I did. I talk in this book about falling into a pit of depression, anxiety, fear. It knocked me out, Todd, for 4 months, out of life. I didn't go to work. I didn't think I would ever be in the light of day again. I thought I was insane. And whenever we're up against the divorce or the crash of a relationship, we feel alone, isolated, and we feel like we're the only people on planet Earth going through what we're going through. So what I would encourage people to do is get in a community of people. Come back into the light. You know, Adam and Eve, first thing they did when everything went wrong in their world, they went and hid away from God. And I think sometimes our circumstances isolate us from God. So I want to say to people, get around people who can speak hope into your life, and get into a community of light that can bring you back into God's purposes and truth for who you are.
All right, Louie Giglio, thank you. The book is called The Comeback, and one added benefit, this is Tennessee Orange. Thank you, Louie. Really appreciate that.
You know, I do what I can.
Folks, this book is in my library, and it really ought to be in yours as well. You can check out more information at ToddStarnes.com. Thanks for watching.